pods. So this is how the hyacinth bean plant looks like. It's a vine, so you need to make sure you provide a nice trellis, and the vines can grow up to 6 to 10 feet, so they're a long growing vine, so make sure you have adequate room for the vines to grow. And the hyacinth bean or the lab bean is a perennial, which means that it keeps growing and it doesn't really die as long as the temperatures don't go down too much. But most people still grow it as an annual. This is how the hyacinth bean flowers look like. They are a little white to purple color. They actually become purple as the flowers grow, and they do produce a lot of flowers, so they look pretty. The hyacinth or lab bean is a simple to grow plant. You don't need to really worry about how much fertilizer you're adding. You just need to make sure you have a well drained soil, have lots of compost, and as you can see, it produces a lot of beans in these clusters. And once again, we are using these beans only for their pods. So what you do is, once the pods are ready, you can harvest the pods and then chop them up and use them. So it's now time to harvest our hyacinth or lab bean. Remember, we're harvesting them for their tender pods. So the earlier you harvest, the better it is to get that tender pod that you can cook really well.
The gari or the cassava, or in some part in shima, that is being eaten by most Africans, is not an African food. It's never an African food. It's never an African food. You can see the hyacinth beans. Just watch the video. Hyacinth beans. What did the colonial masters did when they came to Africa? They didn't just take our culture and our tradition and the best things that we have. They didn't only take that, they also took away our food. So even the hyacinth bean, some parts it is called in different names. The Indians took it as part of their food. Not just only the Indians, the Australians. It is also called Australian pea. But this particular bean is an African beans, which which most of us doesn't even know or cannot even find it in our regular markets. So some of you will be thinking you're going to see cassava or gari. Cassava or gari is not an African food. It is purely a Brazilian food. Cassava is a Brazilian food. So start going back to your drawing board to know those African foods. And that is the more reason why these foods that we are eating now are not part of our DNA. And that is why most of us get sick. Most of us in Africa are always going to the hospital. Our body shape are not as before. You can see, even the yam we are even eating is not a purely African yam. It's not an ancient African yam. The yam that you see it on your screen now, the yam that is an African yam is purely yellow. It's called the yellow yam or water yam. There are so many foods that in our next video we're going to talk about. Thanks for watching.